Hey, friends, welcome to the Pressure Pod, where we talk about one thing that every pastor understands, and that is pressure. And today we are talking about, I think, one of the most invisible forms of ministry pressure. Invisible because no one else but a person like you in your job feels this pressure. It's the emotional weight of caring for people who are hurting. You know, when I became a pastor, I intellectually knew that caring for hurting people was part of the job. But knowing it and then living it out, those are two very different things. This is a weight that very few people outside of the church, outside of church leadership, can really understand, because there are no other jobs where you're not just expected to step in and help, but you're kind of expected in some ways to be the voice of faith, the voice of God in these moments. You know, what really caught me by surprise was how I felt, not during the moment, but like weeks and months, and in some cases even years, after standing in the middle of a tragedy or a hardship with a family. You know the feeling, right? You're standing to preach maybe, and then your eyes scan the room, and there it is. There's that face. That face, that one that reminds you of a graveside conversation, the one face from the hospital visit that did not end in healing, the face that's from that counseling session or counseling sessions that went terribly and ultimately ended in divorce. I mean, every pastor carries faces like that. The moment passed, but that emotion, it just still lingers. And here's the thing, those faces, they never really leave. They just show up again. And this is good, but they show up again and again. And they're sitting on the third row and they're smiling politely while your heart, and theirs, by the way, is still aching. In fact, your heart begins to ache all over again. And in a way, you can even feel bad for feeling bad. I mean, the person that is reminding you of the tragedy went through the pain. You just came alongside their pain. You're not even sure, are you, that it's okay to feel the pain still? That's the pressure of pain. And by the way, it's very normal to feel that. However, and this is important, if you don't learn to release some of that pain, some of that pressure, it will quietly crush your spirit over time. And I know, because like you, I have been there. I mean, 13 years. I was a lead pastor, and the 13 years of leading church, 3 years in family ministry, and now consulting for 4 and still stepping into pastoral moments. It has taught me this for sure, that you can love people deeply without carrying their pain permanently. Let's talk about how to do that. See, here's the deal, right? Pastors don't just see pain. And it's a privilege, we get to sit in it. We don't just hear stories. We live inside of those stories for a while. It's one of the most sacred parts of ministry. I didn't think I would like it at all. I was much more of a leader than a pastor, kind of a shepherd, but I really learned to see it as a privilege. And I don't want to say enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the fact that God trusted me with it. But those moments, these kind of carrying sacred moments, are also some of the most dangerous moments for us. And the reason is because over time, compassion can turn into, I love this word, residue. Compassion, in a way, can turn into residue. It builds kind of layer after layer until, right, your emotional margin is gone, not just in ministry, at home, everywhere. You start preaching tired. You start counseling numb. You start leading from emptiness instead of empathy. Again, not just in your church, but everywhere. Or the other option, I guess, is you don't allow yourself to emotionally engage because you did that time and it lasted for so long. Or maybe you just have a fear of more residue build up. It's taught you. And it's not because you don't really love people, right? It's because you know that you'll love them maybe too much for too long and you aren't really sure how to let go. See, every time you walk into a hospital room, or every time you sit through or with a person at another funeral, every time you take on an emotional weight, without rhythms of release, that weight adds up. It creates more and more and more residue. So if you are listening, watching right now, and you're feeling some of that heaviness, some of that pressure, if you can literally picture a face that you can't forget, and I bet you can, That's your heart telling you that it is time to release some of that pressure. There's a way to stay compassionate and grounded. I had to learn this. There are three rhythms that really helped me keep my soul intact throughout all of this tenure of pastoring. So here's the three rhythms. First rhythm, number one, you have to learn to separate empathy from ownership. Okay, you were called to care, but not to carry. And there's a pretty big difference there. Say empathy, think about this. Empathy says, I feel this with you, but ownership says, I'm responsible for fixing it. And that second one, listen, it will break you. I had to learn to pray a prayer, and I prayed this prayer regularly. God, thank you for the chance to love them, but help me release what only you can hold. Thank you for the opportunity to love them, but help me to just release what only you can hold. I mean, empathy is a wonderful thing. We should all have it. If you're a pastor, you have to have empathy. Empathy connects you to people, but ownership traps you in their pain. And when you feel yourself getting emotionally tangled in someone else's story, you really should pause and ask, what is mine to carry here? And more importantly, what is God's to carry? That's really where some peace in this pressure begins. That's the first rhythm. Now, second rhythm, number two, is you have to create rhythms of release. And again, I had to learn this the hard way too. You cannot keep absorbing pain without processing it. Okay, so like after a funeral, after a hospital visit, or a tough meeting, I used to, maybe you do this, just push through onto the next task, right? But ministry doesn't kind of run on emotional autopilot. There's no emotionally neutral moments like this. You have to stop and you have to take time to exhale. So for me, sometimes that meant just taking a walk after a hard conversation. Sometimes it meant sitting in silence and just breathing deeply before that next meeting. Sometimes it meant going home early for the day or to the gym to sweat out some of that frustration and pain. I mean, I don't know what it is for you, and it's probably unique for you, but you have to find that pressure release valve. So, I don't know, go for a run, debrief with another trusted pastor or a coach, take a drive with worship music on or something else that can relieve you. And listen, this isn't about being indulgent. Listen, this is about being responsible, because what doesn't get released gets repeated. And you can't lead with clarity when your heart is all cluttered. You got to release that residue. And then here's the third thing, the third rhythm. You have to re-engage intentionally, not reactively. So you have this rhythm of release and you release some of that tension, some of that pressure. Now you have to re-engage, but you can't do it reactively. You have to be intentional. And for many of us, listen, this is the hardest part of ministry. Isn't that first hospital visit? It's the next Sunday. It's all the things that are come on the heels of that. Because I mean, I used to do this. You would gear up, right? You would emotionally prepare yourself to walk into that hospital or to stand in that family room before the funeral that you were about to officiate. I mean, all of that is so painful, right? But it's what happens after that. Now, it's painful for everybody else too. I mean, for the family, for all, I'm not in any way saying that it's not painful or that your pain is worse, but there's a different kind of ongoing pain because those faces are going to keep showing up. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it's almost like you want to avoid them because you don't want to reopen, wounds in the midst of all of the other things that you're dealing with at the same time. So how do you re-engage without, maybe the word is overextending? Here's what helped me is I just kept it really simple. When I would see one of those faces, and by the way, I can picture dozens of them as I sit here right now. I still see them in my community. I still, even though I'm coaching full-time and consulting with churches full-time, I go to the church that I used to attend. I live in the community we've always lived in. I see those faces still all the time. And here's what I do. I keep it simple. I offer a genuine smile because I genuinely do love these people. And I'm honored that God allowed me to stand in on his behalf for a moment. So I offered a genuine smile. Maybe a brief moment, of eye contact and a short, hey, I just want you to know I still pray for you, because that's true. But then that's it. I don't have to fix anything. It's not my job to fix anything. You just have to remind kind of them, I think, and yourself that Really, love is what endures, and the story is never really fully finished, is it? I mean, re-engagement is really about compassion, but it's compassion with boundaries. It's loving people from health, though, not from hurt. And you know this, but I'll say it anyway. You don't always have the right words to say anyway. I mean, nobody remembers, and you've heard this, what you say anyway. They remember how you make them feel. So you're not always going to feel strong yourself, and that's okay, but you can help them feel okay. Because your presence is what matters so much more than being perfect in these spots, right? Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is just be there without, by the way, carrying the outcome. That's the kind of quiet heroism of pastoral leadership, I think. It's showing up with an open heart, but also having some firm boundaries. It's remembering that you're not the capital H healer, right? You're in the hands that help people, you're the hands really that help people find the healer. So if you're exhausted from carrying too many stories, it's time to remember this, right? The people you love the most were never meant to be your burden. God has entrusted them to you, and He's entrusted you to care for them for a season. But when the season shifts, the healthiest thing that you can do is to entrust them back to God. So here's your action step this week. You know, we always come to action steps. Here's your action step. Think of that one face that you're still carrying, and you probably can see it right now. You know who it is. Their story, right, is living rent-free in your head. Their pain is living rent-free in your head. Their pain, right, sits in your chest when you preach, especially when you tackle a certain topic or a certain conversation. So right now, right, before next Sunday, before the next meeting, here's what I'd love for you to do. Just pause and pray a very simple prayer. And here it is. God, thank you for letting me love them. Help me to entrust them back to you. Teach me to care without caring. That's it. That's how you start leading from compassion again, instead of pressure. You don't have to kind of toughen up more. You just have to trust more. Because pastoring from the heart isn't about carrying every hurt. It's about keeping your heart open so you can constantly love everyone around you. Hey, if this hits home today, well, first of all, you need to know you're not alone. Every pastor that I know, every pastor that I'm working with or have worked with feels this kind of emotional pressure. But I want you to know it's possible to lead from peace and not from pain and pressure. That's what this entire thing is about, right? Learning to release the pressure. It's what the pressure pod is about. Learning to release the pressure so that you can lead with clarity and confidence again. You can read more about this if you want. If you go to gavinadams.com, there's a blog titled Caring Without Crumbling. You can read more there. Or you should just check out our pressure valve sessions. These are 1-hour coaching experiences where we help pastors release some of that residue that's been building up. So until next time, keep pastoring from the heart, and remember, you were called to care, not to carry.